In the heart of a dense, forgotten forest, where even the bravest of souls hesitate to tread, stood a massive, decrepit house cloaked in shadows. Its walls, once majestic, now sagged and cracked, and its windows, like empty eyes, stared out into the encroaching darkness. This was no ordinary house. It was a place where nightmares festered and whispers of the past echoed through the empty halls. But this story isn't about the house itself. It's about the family that came to inhabit it. It began years ago with the Sullivan family, a father named Thomas, a mother named Eleanor, their teenage son Daniel, their young daughter Lily, and their loyal dog, Max. Thomas, a once respected historian, was driven mad by an obsession with uncovering ancient secrets. Eleanor, once a nurturing woman, was slowly consumed by a deep-seated fear that darkened her soul. Daniel, brooding and resentful, sought solace in rebellion. Lily, innocent and bright, had an unsettling knack for knowing things she shouldn't. And Max, their faithful dog, was the only one who seemed to understand the malevolence lurking around them. The Sullivans had moved to the house seeking isolation from the clamor of city life, hoping it would provide a fresh start. They had heard whispers of its dark past but dismissed them as mere superstitions. The house had been abandoned for decades, shrouded in rumors of hauntings and disappearances. It was said that those who entered were never seen again, their souls trapped within the cold, crumbling walls. The first few nights were eerily quiet. The family settled into their new life, though an unsettling feeling clung to them like a second skin. The house seemed alive, its creaks and groans more than just the effects of age. Shadows flitted across the walls and whispers, barely audible but chilling, wove through the air. One stormy night, as lightning illuminated the house in stark flashes, the family was jolted awake by a series of chilling screams. Eleanor, pale and trembling, claimed she had seen a figure standing at the end of her bed, a gaunt, ghostly apparition with hollow eyes that seemed to bore into her soul. Thomas dismissed her fears, attributing it to stress and exhaustion, but Eleanor knew what she had seen, and it was only the beginning. As days turned into weeks, the disturbances grew more frequent. Strange occurrences became part of the family's daily life. Daniel, while exploring the attic, discovered old family portraits and dusty journals filled with cryptic symbols. He grew increasingly agitated, claiming that the house was trying to communicate with him through its disjointed messages. Lily, too, began to exhibit odd behavior, speaking to an imaginary friend she called Mr. Black, who seemed to give her unsettling instructions. Max, the family dog, became increasingly agitated, barking at unseen presences and cowering in corners. His behavior was the only sign that the family might not be alone. The atmosphere in the house grew thicker, as if the very walls were closing in on them. The family's isolation turned into desperation as the whispers grew louder, more insistent, and the shadows began to take shape. One fateful night, the house seemed to come alive. The family was gathered in the living room when the temperature plummeted and the air grew heavy. Suddenly the lights flickered, casting erratic shadows that danced and twisted on the walls. The whispers grew into a cacophony of voices, pleading and screaming. The house seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy that threatened to engulf them. Thomas, desperate to escape, tried to break down the front door, but it remained stubbornly closed, as if held shut by an unseen force. Eleanor, clutching Lily, could only sob as she watched the shadows stretch and twist, taking on the forms of grotesque, nightmarish figures. Daniel, clutching the journal he had found, began to read aloud, hoping that the words would somehow provide a solution. But the more he read, the more the house seemed to react, the walls trembling and groaning as if in agony. Max, in a final act of bravery, barked furiously at a corner of the room, where a dark, swirling mass seemed to coalesce. The house's malevolence was now focused on him, and the shadows seemed to stretch out, consuming the dog in a blur of darkness. The family's cries and screams were drowned out by the overwhelming noise of the house's fury. In their final moments of terror, the Sullivans realized too late that they had become part of the house's twisted legacy. Their screams joined the chorus of souls that had come before them, their bodies and spirits trapped within the walls, forever bound to the darkness that had claimed them. The house, having fed on their fear and suffering, grew stronger, its hunger unquenchable. The next morning, the forest was eerily silent. The house stood as it always had, its facade a grim reminder of the horrors within. The Sullivans were never seen again, the Tiu, their disappearance adding another layer to the house's grim legend. The forest swallowed their story, and the house remained, waiting for the next family to cross its threshold. And so, the House of Shadows stood silent once more, its malevolence lying in wait. The Sullivans became part of the house's dark history, their fate sealed by the very darkness they had sought to escape. Their story became a cautionary tale whispered among the trees, a grim reminder that some secrets are best left undisturbed, and that the shadows in the corners of the world might just be waiting for someone to get too close. As you turn off your lights tonight and settle into your own bed, remember, not all darkness is merely the absence of light. Sometimes it's a living, breathing entity that waits for the right moment to reach out and claim you.